In 1939, when Ed was 16, World War II began. He enlisted in the Canadian Army.
The reason most guys joined up was because all their buddies were going, and they didn't want to be singled out as somebody that wouldn't go, and it was considered chicken, I guess, if you didn't. Actually, I know as far as I was concerned, I thought those Nazis were just terrible, what they were doing in the world.
Ed's first posting was to Experimental Station Suffield, a facility researching effective defenses against chemical weapons. Ed was a test subject. He was assigned to the Regina Rifles, who were known as the Farmer Johns, or the Johns for short. Ed was then shipped to Camp Shiloh for training. In July 1943, Ed was shipped from Canada to Scotland on the Queen Elizabeth.
First of all, we landed and we went down to a place called Whitley. They worked hard at keeping everybody in shape. You had to go through obstacle courses and all this. And then they came around and asked for volunteers to go to this camp at Camp Borden. And my buddy and I thought, hell, sure, we'll go. So we went and we joined a demonstration platoon. And that demonstration platoon, they used us to train young commissioned officers, young guys that were going to be commissioned officers. And it was a real elite regiment, And it was our platoon, I should say. It was a huge platoon, but it was the people. And it sounds strange, but one of the things that you had to do is be able to march in time to the drum, And then there was a sergeant major there with a little curled mustache, about 5 foot tall, and what a mean little cuss he was. And boy, when he barked, you jumped. Anyway, when they'd say, attention, there'd be one bang. You'd think it was just one big boot. Everybody would just hit that.
Ed's unit was Charlie Company. They were deployed on the border of Belgium and the Netherlands. He arrived just in time for Operation Switchback. Their mission was to take back the port of Antwerp from the Nazis. But first, they had to get across Leopold Canal.
It was one of those close encounters where you're pretty darn close to the enemy. But what comes back to me more than anything is how terrified I was when we come up there at night. And it was a real dark night. It was kind of raining, and you could hear these big guns, when you were coming way back, 10 miles back. You could hear the big carump of the bombs going on, or the shells going off, the artillery. And then as we got up closer, we started meeting these jeeps. And on the jeeps, they would have the bodies. They were bringing out the guys back, on jeeps. So I think I'd only seen one dead body in my life, and then all of a sudden, mind you, it was pretty dark, but the flashes of the shells exploding and whatnot, you got a glimpse of what was there. And then they took us up there, and we became engaged. The Germans were on one side of the dike, and we were on the other. It was pretty close. It was close enough to toss grenades across. But the Germans, they used the dikes there to help on their defense. They'd bomb the dikes and blow up the dikes, and then the water would flood so that our heavy machinery couldn't get through. The tanks and whatnot couldn't go. We went through several little towns, but I don't remember their names. We went through bigger places like Groningen, Deventer, and some of those. Some of those towns, there was nothing left but rubble. Just rubble, nothing else. The Allies bombed them. But the infantry was used mainly as cannon fodder, because when they wanted to find out where the Germans were shelling from or shooting from, they'd send us out towards that area. And if you're lucky, you survived it. but then once they found that, then they could get the artillery there, and they could really put on a good battle. Germans like to have snipers, camouflaged, and they were damn good at their trade. Well, that was a nasty job we had to get rid of those guys. And so in the meantime, the tank guys would go through the cities, and the ladies would all be flocking. We were jealous as hell.